Welcome to Be Growth Driven, everybody, and you got a substitute. So you got our exit video when we started the show because it's Audrey this week. I'm so sorry. Welcome again. As promised, as always, we are going to have an insightful show about business growth, personal growth, and development in your business and learning from others. So today, who we're learning from today is Jeff Sarault, licensee with Grant Cardone. Jeff, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's good to be back, Audrey. How are you today? Good to see you.
Like we said, the audio works. We're happy. It's all good.
Good. If you can hear me, I can hear you. It feels great.
Perfect.
Good to be back.
Perfect. The only difference is our levels, but we're all good.
Ooh,
okay.
Sounds good.
I'm sitting attentively and listening. So we might have some crashers throughout the show. For any watchers and viewers who are familiar with our popular guests, you can come in. We're just getting ready to get started.
Crashers. Oh
Joel's
my goodness.
here. I thought you had an appointment, and that's why I was.
Yeah, I do here shortly.
That's
why. Jeff, it's always good to see you, my friend.
Great to be back, sir. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And this is going to be a phenomenal episode. But Audrey here is going to talk. We're going to talk about sales and just the importance of sales. And you started. I want to just highlight real quick something you highlighted or started something recently, which is just phenomenal for anybody that's a sales professional, business owner, has a sales team. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Tell the audience a little bit about that.
Yeah. So just as a pet project, completely unrelated to anything else I do, I just started doing this live series every morning at 7 a.m. Eastern time, and it's called 7 a.m. Success Meeting. And it's basically just a way to give access to people who I'm connected to through social media or however they know me, to ideas about success, and primarily around the topic of selling and business development. Because I've noticed that, especially in the time that we're in, that companies who have salespeople who are currently scattered all over the place, they don't have a way to bring everybody together in one location and talk about things around success. And so I thought, well, let me give people that I know a place to go, because I need that. And I work with a team that's scattered all over the world, and there's got to be other people who would love to have that, but don't necessarily know where to get it. So I just decided that's what we're going to do. There's no sales pitch. It's just a place for people to learn something and to talk to people who are successful.
Pure value.
Yeah.
That's all we're shooting for. That's all we're shooting for. And again, it comes from a place where, like, I was thinking to myself, gosh, I need something to pump me up every day before I come into the office and do stuff. Well, I may as well try to share that with other people. And now what we're hoping to do is get other people who watch the live to share that with other people in their networks so that we can help others. So
fantastic. So everybody that's watching, we're going to put a link to this so that way you can get a hold of Jeff. Go to jeffsarault.com or follow at that Jeff Sarault right there.
Yep.
Follow his 7 a.m. success meeting. Follow that, join it, participate in it. This is the guy this is definitely one of the guys, the guy. He's the guy. I'm going to say you're the guy.
The guy.
Well, I mean, that's only because I have the in my social media handle. That's why you're saying that. I understand.
Guy, right? This is the guy to follow right here.
You were the Joel Boer.
That's true. That's true.
100%.
Well, thanks for that, Joel. And I'm glad thank you for watching it, and thanks for the plug, and I hope other people will join. So
absolutely, my friend. We'll catch up a little bit more later.
You got it, buddy.
Since you guys.
What platform can you find this at? Because I remember seeing something about it. Where are you hosting this?
Yeah, so I just started through my Facebook page. So all of my social media handles are the same at the Jeff Sarault. If anybody wants to follow me there, the stream runs on my personal and business Facebook page, as well as Instagram and YouTube. And so that's just follow me there, and you can't miss it. It just pops on every morning at 7. So.
I'm glad I'm not the only professional with 2 Facebook pages, because my family they don't want to see the professional stuff, and you all don't want to see the kids and the food stuff.
It's good to have both, and I never really know where people are going to find me, and I figure if we're out there on whatever platform, they're either gonna find you, or it's okay if you don't follow me. That's fine. But I'd like to help people. Exactly.
It's one or the other. So let's start with, aside from this, because some of the content, I'm sure, is coming from a lot of different sources, but one of the main places you have content for or share is your Grant Cardone licensee. So what I wanted to ask to start the show on a lighter note of getting to know you is, how did you find 10X? were you already into sales and personal development and then happened upon it? And then what was the path from there to right now?
Great question. So I've been in sales since I was 18 years old. I'm going to be 39 this week. And so I've been in sales for a while. And I was very fortunate when I first got into the industry of selling. I had a great mentor, a great leader, and someone who taught me the basics. But then as time went on and the tactics of being successful in sales and social media and things changed. And I progressed into other positions. I was always looking for how do I be better at what I do? And at one point, I was also involved in a direct sales, like a network marketing kind of a business. And those types of industries tend to be very heavy on training. And a guy who I was in that business with said, "Have you ever heard of a guy named Grant Cardone?" And I said, "You know what? No, I haven't." And I started. I think probably anyone who's ever heard of Grant starts with YouTube. That's what people would do. You Google it, a YouTube video pops up, and that's how I learned about him. And I just started listening to this guy talk about selling and what sales should be like in today's business environment. And I thought, wow, this guy is saying things that I could say myself and believe in and not feel like I'm some sort of a slimy salesperson. And and so it started resonating with me. And now I haven't been involved in that network marketing business in years, but I still took the training that I got from Grant and applied it to other things. So over time, it helped in my personal sales development. It's helped me in careers that I've had. Also, the company that I work for today for the last 5 years, it's helped me tremendously. And so, as you mentioned, I recently became a Grant Cardone licensee. And what that means is that I'm licensed and authorized to utilize Grant's content to help other people. And so that's really where my content that I share comes from. It's information that was taught to me by him that I'm just, my goal is to help others who are struggling or who want to just get better from where they currently are in their sales career.
Perfect. And I'm thinking about that 7 minutes. That's exactly it. You're wanting to help, wanting to share value. I know we have a mutual friend and he used to do a morning thing, and that really is a great way to start your day. When he quit doing it, I'm like, I need that. I like hearing it. And
I saw that mutual friend of ours about 2 weeks ago, and I've been trying to get him back in there because he had a great segment in the mornings called Morning Motivation, and it was just a quick hit that you got on your Instagram feed, and it just kind of was like, oh, that's good stuff. So we'll talk him back into it.
Yes, please do. We would walk Nora to school, and on my way back to the car to go to work, I'd watch that. And I know some people might say, oh, it's recycled content. I don't care. I like hearing it re-emphasizes and sinks in certain sales points or tactics or ways to run your business when you hear it from other voices. When you're hearing the same message, it helps. But we've talked before about that. Sometimes it's who you're hearing it from that matters.
Well, and Audrey, the thing about whether you go to Grant's YouTube page and watch something, or if I teach you something that I learned from him, that the audience is, or I should say the speaker and the audience are two different connections in those situations. Okay. If wherever somebody is in their stage of being a salesperson goes out and learns something from Grant, Grant is this big name with millions and millions of followers. And I'm certainly not. I'm just a guy who has learned a lot from him, but I can speak to somebody on the same level of someone who sells the same kind of products I do or services I do. And so I'm saying all of that to say that sometimes the message coming from a person who's more relatable will hit you differently than if you hear it from anything that you learn in one of Grant's events or through Cardone University or on YouTube. It's going to resonate, but you might hear it in a different way from someone who has a different level of experience.
That's a much more eloquent way to put it than I had said it. So good.
No, not at all.
I agree with that completely. So let's talk sales tips. The theme of the show today is sales tips to set you apart from the rest. Because again, sales isn't slimy. It's a different trainer I had heard explained it's something that I'm doing for you and with you when you're in that sales process. So let's share some different tips and tricks on this. You take it away.
Yeah. So I think the first thing that everyone needs to remember when you are a salesperson, and it could be if today is your first day as a salesperson or today is the start of your 50th year as a salesperson, is exactly like you said, Audrey. Sales is not something you do to someone. Selling and closing is something that you do for someone. Okay. And what I mean by that is as a person who has a business or a product or a service, you cannot help somebody with that product or service unless they enter into a transaction with you.
Right.
And until that occurs, you can't help somebody else. So my first point would be to approach sales from a position of service, where you want to serve people first. And everything, if you enter from that point of view, everything else will follow. Now, there's stuff you need to learn. There's things you want to do. There's approaches that you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
But before you get to any of that, if you're just trying to push your product on somebody and you don't care whether they use it or whether it helps them or whether it solves a problem, then nothing else matters. And that's the first thing I would say is approach sales as a way to help people.
If I can interject, I came from the service industry, so I like that approach. It fits my personality. I do take it a little personal when I call someone to follow up on my sale, and they're like, "Yeah, we haven't touched it. We haven't used it." I'm like, "You haven't used it?" I'm like, I went through all this work to help you, and I know what this will do for you, and you didn't even use it yet. So it's kind of funny because we really do want to help people.
Well, and that's, I think a good salesperson, and you are an example of this. I know Joel's an example of this, and a lot of the people that we are all associated with, we believe in what we do. We believe in the products that we have. We wouldn't, as people of ethics, we would not sell a product or a service that doesn't improve a business or someone's lives or whatever. So it's natural if you are hurt if somebody is not using it. And I'm with you. I agree. But the other thing is to keep in mind is like that service. And I know, you guys provide excellent service over there. The service doesn't end when the contract gets signed, right? And so sometimes we might even learn in the sales process, once somebody becomes a customer, that there's an opportunity for a second sale or a follow-up sale where there's something else they need to get more value out of the first purchase that they already made. And so that's an important part of being tuned in correctly into the sales process and finding that opportunity. And again, that second sale is it's not a way for you to just get more money. It's a way for you to serve your client by making sure they have all the things that they need to be successful with what they bought from you.
Yes, absolutely. That's on our cards. We help you with one step. We help you execute it too. So if you need help, we've got it. So
for sure.
One of the tips I know we have shared before is thinking 3 moves ahead. Can you elaborate on that? It kind of goes along with this, with the second sale and following up, but more information on that from you.
Yeah. So thinking 3 steps ahead there's a fine line between guessing what's going to happen in the sales process and knowing what's going to happen in the sales process. And one of the things that Grant teaches, and that I would say if there was anything in my personal situation that improved my ability to sell, it's understanding that there is a defined business cycle in your interaction with a customer, and there is also a defined sales cycle. Okay, and they are 2 separate things, but they are extremely important. And if you notice any successful sale that you've ever had or anybody watching has ever had, the chances are that if you looked back at it and deconstructed that interaction with a client, the sale followed very specific processes in order to be successful. And if any of those things are out of alignment, your chances are you're not going to get a sale. So when I talk about being 3 steps ahead, as a salesperson, if you know what that sales process is and you know where you are in the sales process, you can anticipate where you might get an objection or where you might get pushback on price or any number of things that could cause you to get out of the road to the sale. And so thinking 3 steps ahead is not a guess. It's just knowing where you are so that you can plan for what step you're going to take after the stage that you're in of the sales cycle.
Now, can I ask, this is one of the things I'm still trying to master, because it does take a lot of study and work to know this. When I know there's not supposed to be the term that someone's just good at sales, because I think of you and Joel in that level, because I'm still an apprentice to an extent. Does that become inherent? Did you have to memorize? Or I like visualizations. Like, I want it written out on my wall step by step so I can flow through it until I memorize it, because I still haven't memorized it. How did you find for you it helped to learn these cycles? Because I know they're defined. It's very clear, but to use it is another thing.
Yeah, I think, there's very important steps. You want to greet a customer. You want to qualify that customer. Once you establish whether or not they are going to be qualified to be a customer of yours, you want to you want to do a demonstration. You want to make a proposal. You want to try to close that deal. And then if by that point in the sales cycle you haven't closed the deal, you move into a follow-up sequence and you follow that prospect up. And so that's kind of that's the cycle. Like, as a salesperson, that's the cycle you want to be in. Well, right. It's you asked, are you born a salesperson, or is that a natural thing? Like Grant says, you're not born a salesperson, you're born a baby.
Your baby.
You have to become a salesperson, and that involves training. Now, there's a lot of people who get into sales and they just start doing things that they think sound good, and then they don't produce results. But so if I learned very late in my selling career, just a few years ago, that if you follow a cycle, and you know that you want to greet, you want to qualify, you want to fact find, you want to make sure that you're on the right product, you want to make a proposal. If you don't know where you are in that cycle, everything else falls apart. Yes. So, I actually have had to write that down. I've had to, I keep that on my desk. And so when I'm engaged in a client before we get on the phone, or if it's a process of a one-time interaction, mm-hmm. If you haven't qualified the customer to make sure that they could even buy what you want or what they want, then there's no need to move on to the next stage until you find what is the product that could satisfy their need, right, that they are qualified to buy for. It's just, you have to have all those pieces of the puzzle together. And to do that, if you have to write them down, one of the places where that's taught is at the 10X Business Bootcamp. I know you've attended one of those.
Not yet. I haven't yet.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, that's something that I recommend people really get into is a boot camp, because that's where they teach you these cycles. And once you get familiar with that, as long as you don't break those cycles, you will always know where you are in the sales process and what to do next.
And that's what I'm working on. Follow the steps and stay in them. Do not, it's like those signs in the movie where it's the road sign and it's all over the place. You don't want that.
Exactly. It's like, the example I could get is like, if, Audrey, if you want to drive from where you are in Nebraska to where I am in Pennsylvania, the first thing you'd probably do is you'd probably jump on the computer and you'd either buy an airline ticket, or you'd go to Google Maps and you'd figure out, how do I what's the route that I have to take to get from where I am to where I want to go? And listen, if you jump in the car and you start driving west from Nebraska, you're not going to get any closer to Pennsylvania than you intended to get. So having a sales process and a sales cycle is like having a roadmap, and there is a road to the sale. And people who are unfamiliar with that, or haven't learned that, or don't follow that process once they've learned it, tend to have some difficult situations when they're in the sales process.
I'm glad to know it's on your desk, because I need to laminate it. Laminate it and put it. Actually, I want to say I used to have print off. Yeah, the steps to the sale. I've got it right here. Here, wait. It's on my wall.
There you go. That's exactly. Greeting, fact finding, presentation. And then close the deal. And go ahead.
As I said, trial close, that's perfect, because
exactly. Trial close is big. Finding out. And by the way, here's a little secret. Here's a free tip. The best trial close in the history of the world, when you're dealing with a customer after you've greeted them, after you've qualified them, after you have figured out what product that you want to present. After you've gone through all of that, the best trial close in the history of the world is, have you seen enough information to make a decision? Okay. It's the best, because it's a yes or a no answer. And if the answer is yes, you can move into closing the deal. If the answer is no, then you know that there is something out of alignment between what you think is right for the customer and what the customer wants to buy. And you just have to jump back into that sales cycle to figure out where you need to be.
Then you could say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think this is going to affect your business, or would you use it, or what?
Exactly. There's, and proper training, whether it's with Grant or whether it's with me or whether it's with somebody else. It's proper training on how to identify where you are in the sales process with a prospect is going to literally save you time. It's just a quick story. So in the company where I work, we sell a very, very expensive, very big data product that typically has a very, very long sales cycle. And when I first started in this company, it was anywhere between 12 and 18 months in some cases for a sales cycle. And the biggest thing that I had to try to figure out is, how do I take time out of the equation? Okay. How do I reduce the friction of getting through this sales cycle? And sometimes the best way to figure that out is to find out from the prospect, ask them directly on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being you would never pick up the phone and take a call from me ever again, and 10 being you're ready to do this today. Where are you? Just where are you on a scale from 1 to 10? And if they say that they're at a 3, you have a lot more work to do. But if they say they're at an 8, then there's something there that is just a few steps away from getting you to where you and the client need to be. But unless you're in interaction with that prospect, you're not going to know that unless you ask these questions.
Yeah, that's a big fear of the phone. Pick up the phone, talk to somebody.
Pick up the phone, call somebody. Exactly. Ask them. Ask them a legitimate question that is going to help them if they give you a legitimate answer. And those are the first things that you have to do is to make sure that your communication is open with your prospect.
Perfect. One of the things that you talk about too, or that we have that we're going to cover, is CRM, having your data organized.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Whatever CRM that is. What is the best CRM? Do you know the answer?
Yes, I do know the answer to that. The best CRM I use is delivered to me by First Direct Marketing.
I wasn't going there, but thank you. I was going to say, it's the one you use.
That's true. That is true. It's got to be the one that you use. You can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a CRM, and it doesn't matter if it's HubSpot, Salesforce, Go High Level. There's all sorts of things that are out there. But if you don't put the information in and then use it, then you're basically a non-starter from the start. So, it's input in equals input out. And if you don't keep things up to date, and if you're not using it to make sure that you're managing that process of that business cycle and sales cycle, then you basically just wasted a bunch of money on software.
Yes. And we use a similar expression with data: bad data in, bad data out. If you don't put your notes in, you don't know where to jump into the step of the sale when it comes time to call that person back, if it's been a few weeks. Because sometimes this is terrible. Maybe this is a gift. I can remember specific conversations I had, or names. Like somebody called the other day, I need the name of, and they couldn't even think to say what it started with. And I'm like, I know who it is. And I'm like, how does that happen? But we don't put our notes in our CRM and then remember it later. We just don't. So the brain is a tricky thing like that.
Well, and a salesperson who is having, think about a business development rep, somebody who's making hundreds of cold calls a day, 5-6 days a week, just to try to fill a pipeline.
I know
it is impossible. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've all been there at one point, probably in our sales career. It's impossible for one person to remember every interaction that they've had with hundreds of prospects in the course of a day, let alone the course of a week. Yeah. And trying to do that is very stressful. So if you just get into the habit of entering it into a CRM, whatever you use, and I mean, a CRM is not your notebook. A CRM is a place somewhere on your computer that is managing all that data.
Yeah, because I keep handwritten notes, but almost everything I put here goes in there. And
exactly.
And that's the other tricky thing about the brain. I can remember what page. I'm like, it's on the top of the page. I know it was like at this point in time last month, and I'll go back and find it.
Yep.
That's going to go away at some point in time because
it's going to go away. And if it's in an electronic format, you will always have it. Even if you're halfway around the world, you can open up your cell phone and listen, this is the cell phone the smartphone today is available to do a lot of great things. A very important thing it should be able to do is access your CRM.
Yes. Can you imagine doing international business even 10 years ago?
No, I do international business now, and I can't imagine what it would be like if I didn't have the technology that was available today.
Or when you were 18, because I was 18 when you were 18, and I know what we had, and it was not even comparable.
Yeah, I remember at one point having a phone that came in a bag, and it had to be plugged into the cigarette lighter in your car in order to operate, and that was if you could get service somewhere. That's how old we are. Audrey.
And to text message was to send an email, and the actual email address was the phone number you put in.
Exactly.
That was texting.
So that's a beauty of where we are with technology today is that you literally can get access to any information that you want at the touch of a fingertips. And the information that you want as a salesperson is access to your CRM. Yeah. And then the second thing is going to be access to training on how to use it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. With your new exciting venture with your 7 a.m. success meeting, what is it called? Tell me, is that what it's called?
So, yeah, it's called 7 a.m. success meeting, and it's Monday through Friday. Sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes, but something that I'm very excited about is starting next week, we have a guest every single day. So in addition to a lesson that we'll teach about something related to improving sales and business, I'm going to be pulling in people that I've met in the last several years who have created successful businesses or become successful salespeople. And, it's not about me. It's about them teaching you what they've learned. And I hope that just, if everybody pulls one thing out of any of those interviews that helps them get inspired to do something in their business, then it'll have been worth doing for sure.
Yes. And that is true. Sometimes I want to say, which book is it? Maybe it is Sell or Be Sold. Sometimes you buy a book and it's just one thing that makes all the difference. Sometimes hearing just one thing. We had a BEGrowthDriven and you said something inspiring to me and I messaged you about it. It helped me so much. Nanuka, she said one thing, and later that day I had the chance to ask a question to Sharon Lecter, and it was because of that conversation I had on BEGrowthDriven with Nanuka. So yeah, you can always get a nugget from somebody. Be open, be teachable, be coachable, be humble, and you'll get a point.
That's so true. And I think that if I had to say something about in my personal experience over the last several years, as I was explaining, it was about 5 years ago, I kind of got introduced to Grant, and that was sales training that resonated with me. Mm-hmm. Well, for the years before that, I learned well to start. I had a great teacher to start. And then as I just evolved through my career, I wasn't investing in sales training. I wasn't investing in going to events, learning from people, meeting people in places that had the experience I was trying to have myself. And I would say that since I've taken that as a stepping stone in my career of learning and going to events and meeting people like you and Joel and everybody else, it's like, that's how you get access to better ideas. That's how your mind opens up. Yeah. And that's where you start to be willing to accept, oh, wow, these people have done what I'm trying to do. I should learn from them. I should take their advice.
Yes. Networking, not just for the opportunity of business, but for development is excellent. I think that's more what I do. That's because when I first started networking, I would feel bad because the entire time meeting someone, I'm like, what can I sell them? What can they need? What could I do to help them? And I felt bad. I'm like, that's not the angle to go at. And we went to a conference and it was approaching it from service, approaching it from helpfulness. And I'm like, that's the reset. That's exactly it.
One of the things I tell people a lot is I don't know why this has been the case, but a lot of people lately have been asking me, I'm going to this networking event. How do I make the most out of that? And what I tell people is your goal when you go to a networking event is to talk about yourself for the least amount of time as possible. And if you are constantly asking people about themselves, I think it was Dale Carnegie. I'm probably botching this, but I think it was Dale Carnegie that said that the greatest sound in any language to any human being is the sound of their own name, right? If people want to talk about themselves, they want to. And so if you take your focus in a networking event to try to talk about you as little as possible and extract as much information out of the people that you meet, a couple of things are going to happen. One, you're going to create that environment where people feel good about being around you because they like talking about themselves. And the second thing is you're going to gather a ton of information, and you're going to figure out, okay, of the 10 people I met today, here's the 2 I can help. And, I'm going to try to continue to interact with them. And later on, through the process of serving, people will learn about you. People will learn about what you can do to help them and who you are and what your background is.
That is excellent advice. That is excellent. Brandon Dawson said to us, trying to look over here, I had it on a sticky note, the more you talk, the less people's confidence is in you sometimes, or something along those lines. I need to hear him say it again, but it was along the same lines. You just don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. And the best way to do that, I've always found, is to make sure that you're the first person in an interaction to reach out your hand, shake hands with somebody, and ask them their name and what they do. And if you just ask them why they do that, how they got into that, what do they like about what they do? What do they not like about what they do? What's the biggest challenge that they face when they wake up in the morning that's related to their business? What's one thing that they would tell somebody about their business that they just feel so great about every time they talk about it? And I mean, that right there is just 5 questions you could ask in an interaction before you ever say a word about yourself, and you'll find out more about people, and you'll learn who you can later on help as a result of gathering that data.
You're such a salesperson. I'm sure you realize this. Those are great fact-finding questions you would ask a customer too.
That's
yes.
And from the point of service, right? Okay, it's if you're asking those as fact-finding questions in the sale or just as fact-finding questions in a networking situation, they're one and the same thing. You're just trying to interact with people and figure out how you can help them.
Yeah. Exactly. So with this 7-minute meeting or 7 a.m. meeting, tell us more about social selling, because this clearly you're on platforms, you are available. Tell us more about social selling, because I know a lot of businesses in the beginning, probably my high school mindset of internet was my customers aren't on Instagram. Why would I be advertising on Instagram? Well, that's changed in the last 2 to 3 years. That's changed tremendously. So tell us about social selling.
I think we could probably all agree that if you are not present on social media right now, you're just not present in the marketplace. And that there's 2 ways to be present on social media. I actually learned a lot about this from you guys, is paid and organic. And if you don't have the ability to invest in paid, organic is the way to be. And unless, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the 7 a.m. success meeting, is because I want to get known. And even if it's my clients and my full-time company, even if it's family members that I'm out of touch with on social media, the things that I can do can help a lot of people. But I can't help people unless they know what I'm doing and they know how to reach me. And so social selling, in my view, is basically get out of obscurity by telling people what you do, tell them why you like to do it, and then give them the avenues to contact you if you don't have the avenues to contact them. But if you're not out there at all, there are no contacts, and you're basically cold calling is still important, and all the things that we've done in all the history of sales is still important. But people tend to go to social media for a purpose, for a reason, even if it's to waste time. There's something that there's a void they're trying to fill, and you never know when something that pops out of your mouth might be able to fill that void. And it might just be they have a spiritual need, they have a business need, they have a family need, they have something. And if you're not speaking and you're not putting yourself out there, then you're missing opportunities to help other people.
Exactly. And that goes along with adding value to people. Again, that service, because would you want someone to have a negative reaction to what you say, or would you want to influence or positivity? I mean, we're talking business. Yes, it is our personal brands and our face and our voice, but it's also business too. So being positive and sharing is very important. I've come to learn that the hard way.
You're exactly right. But Grant always says, if they don't know you, they can't flow you. And so, if you want to bring in flow of customers and prospects or people who you can impact, then you've got to push out to let them know that you're available and how you can do that. So you got to get known, and you got to get out of obscurity.
And on social media, the fun thing about it is you start to become someone's friend without ever maybe meeting them face to face. We've met in person. We've met other friends who are watching probably, but you do feel like you get to know somebody, not just on TikTok, but Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. There's somebody I follow who's hilarious, and I've never met, but I know she is a funny person, and she is an amazing lady boss. I was trying to think of what to say. I was going to say what Elena says, but I don't want to say that. But it's like, oh, that's a great mentor. And I've never met her, but I feel like I know her because of the social media aspect of things. So
absolutely,
it connects and resonates. It can,
and it warms up a call. Like, I mean, if somebody's interacting with your content on social media, and then you do call them or they call you, it's just like you just described, Audrey. It's like you even though we've never, even though you may never have had that direct interaction with a prospect before, it's no longer a cold interaction when one party or the other reaches out. And I think, people are always afraid of the cold call. Well, okay, good. Make them all warm calls, and you won't have to worry about that.
Yes, that's a great point. Any other tips or advice you would like to share that is something but very vital to your message or close to your heart?
The only thing I would add to what we've talked about today, that I think every person, regardless of who you are, what you do, and what your role is, even if you don't think you're a salesperson, chances are, in one way or another, you have to sell somebody on something every single day of your life in order to be effective. As a parent, you have to sell your kids on brushing their teeth and taking a bath and going to school. In business, you have to sell your coworkers on things you want them to do. But in either case, regardless of where you feel like you fall in the spectrum of sales, the biggest thing that you have to do is have big, massive goals for your family, for your business, for your life. And if, that is one thing that I have been really focused on this year for myself, is writing my goals down twice a day, making sure that everything that I'm working on at home and at work fit into big, massive goals so that I know what I'm doing every day. And so regardless of what you do for work, regardless of what your home life is like, you got to have goals. You got to have something that you're working for, big, ridiculous, unachievable goals that drive you every day. And so if I could leave people with that thought, write your goals down twice a day. If you do that, you'll write your goals down 730 times a year. And that's most people do it once when they sit down at New Year's Eve and figure out their resolution. So don't be that person. Let your goals sit on the paper in front of you and drive you, and everything else will fall into place after that.
Perfect way to end. Love it. Yeah. If you're writing it every day, it's front of mind. It's right here.
True. It's got to be, don't do it electronically. Write it on paper. There is something about the act of taking it out of your brain through the pen onto a piece of paper that makes it much more tangible.
Yes. And I know one thing I do remember from high school, when you write things down, there's like layers of your brain and memory. And when it comes out the hand, you write it down, it's the second layer. And then the more you write it down, third, fourth, it really drives it home and ingrains it and gets it down in here, not just in here.
And you'll watch as time goes on, even just maybe through the course of a week or the course of a month, your goals will change. And that's okay. That means that you're growing and expanding. But if you don't put them out on paper and you don't look back and look forward on your goals, then it's going to be very, very difficult to know where you are in the process of achieving them. Yeah. But the goal has got to be big. It's got to be, don't worry about the mechanics. Don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just get it down on paper of what you want.
Yes. And if you want to know more about that or any other points that Jeff brought out today, reach out to him. We could have talked for an hour on each of these topics.
I've had a
No
ball
joke.
talking today. Yes, it
No
was awesome.
joke. Because even the goals thing, oh, that's huge. And that can be a new thought to people. So that's a whole different vein. So please reach out to Jeff. Follow up. You got the content or the contact information right there at
Sure
the
do.
Jeff Sarault.
Anywhere on social media, you can find me there. And I hope DM me or, subscribe to my channels wherever they are. And either way, if there's anybody watching this, either live or in the replay, if there's anything you heard today where I can personally help you, let me know. And I'd be happy to set up a time to walk you through some ideas that might be able to help you be more successful in your business.
Perfect. We appreciate it, Jeff. You always bring so much insight. Thank you so much.
Pleasure was all mine, Audrey. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Appreciate everything you do for my business. And it's awesome to connect with you again here on the podcast.
Yes. We're always excited to see what's going on and how you are pushing forward. So thank you for being a good role model in this. Everybody,
my pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for joining us today. Come back next week, always at 2:00 Eastern time, 1:00 Central time. Be Growth Driven will have another fabulous guest with content to share, value to bring that can impact you, your business, your growth, your everything. So join us next week and have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and we'll see you then.